All right, well, good afternoon. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'd love to welcome everyone to this special event. We have people listening on NIH videocast, and we have people here in the room live. We're really pleased to have you here for this special event for Autism Acceptance Month, and it's sponsored by NIMH, the National Institute of Mental Health, and the Office of National Autism Coordination, or ONAC, which is within NIMH. I'm Dr. Susan Daniels, the National Autism Coordinator, the Director of ONAC, and the Executive Secretary of the Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee. And every year in April, we have this event. I looked back, and 2011 was our first event, so we've been doing it for a while. And it's such a special time for us to recognize people on the autism spectrum and all that they contribute to our families and to society, and for us to be able to reaffirm our commitment to their acceptance, inclusion, and full participation in all aspects of community life. For this Autism Acceptance Month event, we are going to be hearing from a wonderful group of people today. We are looking forward to learning more about how they've contributed in this space. And we are celebrating their unique strengths and creativity and their important contributions. So this year's feature is called Soundtracks, an Artistic Journey to Belonging. And we're very excited to be showing the short film Soundtracks that was created with support from First Place Arizona, a nonprofit organization in Phoenix, Arizona, that's dedicated to building a better future for people with autism and other neurodiversities. The film is directed by John Schaefer and features autistic artists Blair Bunting and Nadine. In today's event, we'll be viewing the film and speaking with John, Blair, and Laura about their personal journeys in art. So before diving into the program, I'd love to give a welcome to Dr. Joshua Gordon, the director of NIMH, to let him give some remarks. So welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for those of you in the room for coming today. Those of you online, I'm looking for a camera, I'm not sure where it is, but for joining us today, and especially to our special guests for bringing us their creativity and speaking with us about their journey. This title, Soundtracks, an Artistic Journey to Belonging, is one that I think is extremely appropriate given this Autism Acceptance Month special event. I also, if I could reflect for a moment, have experienced my own journey to belonging in the autism community. It's maybe a scientific journey as opposed to an artistic journey, but entails a lot of creativity. When I came to NIMH just over 7.5 years ago and learned that in accepting the position of director, I had also accepted the position of chair of the Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee, I was surprised and intimidated. I didn't know a whole lot about autism, and most of what I knew from the scientific perspective as opposed to the personal perspective. And in chairing that committee, though, and hearing from many of you in the audience today, many of you online today, all about the experiences of individuals in this community, be they individuals with autism, individuals who are members of families, community members, community organizations, and those who work with those communities. It's really been a journey for me, a journey where I definitely feel like now I have some sense of what it is to belong to this community and to cherish the aspects of the community that we're going to hear about today, creativity, belonging, and I'm very excited for the screening and to hear from our guests. So thank you very much for joining us, and I'll turn it back over to Susan.
Thank you. So I would also like to make an introduction now of a very special person that I met, whom I met when I first came to the NIMH, when I started working with the Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee, Denise Resnik, who is the co-founder of the Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, as well as the founder and CEO of First Place Arizona, was a member of the IACC, and I got to know her many years ago, working for many years together. And she went on to found First Place Arizona, and her organization engages in helping support people on the autism spectrum in many ways, looking for solutions in the service system and supporting autistic people in the community, as well as advocating on the local and national level. So I'm so proud of the wonderful work that Denise has done, and I'd like to give her a chance to introduce herself to you.
Well, thank you, Susan. And for First Place and our First Place Global Leadership Institute, we dream really big. And we have a lofty vision to ensure that housing, healthcare, and employment is bountiful for this population as it is for everyone else. And that takes a lot of us coming together in our local markets with our expertise, doing what we can. And communities, like people, they're defined not by what we say, but how they make people feel. And so we work every day to work on how we make people feel included through models, through data, through making sure things are working and knowing what's working and for whom and what needs to work better. And we do this through lots of expression, all the different ways that we recognize what we're doing at First Place and our First Place Phoenix property, which we also define as an R&D site, right in the heart of the urban area, and also in what PBS NewsHour acknowledges as the most autism-friendly city in the world. And we also acknowledge what other people are doing everywhere, looking for those best practices, looking for ways that people can express their talents, their skills, and what they've got to offer. And so it is with great pride and tremendous pleasure that I introduce you to Soundtracks, and truly the convergence of community, the creation of a film that was made possible by brilliant talent, wonderful people who we've gotten to know and who now are our friends. Blair Bunting, commercial and fine art photographer, and Nadine, violin virtuoso and educator, and John Schaefer, film producer, all people living with autism and neurodivergence, and helping us better understand what we are doing, who we are working for, and to be able to learn from them as we better appreciate their stories. So please join me in experiencing and feeling Soundtracks.
My family, we'd move to a small town in Illinois every summer. I think part of it was to try and escape the AC bills because my parents were both teachers. We'd go out there. There'd be nothing to do. My grandma lived right next to train tracks, and so as kids, that's all we'd do. We'd run out and watch trains.
I think music fell in love with me. I didn't fall in love with it, as I don't remember a time that I didn't want to do it. I remember being at school and having all these friends around me that were trying to learn to play, and they were struggling, and I would stay after school and help them learn because I just wanted friends to play with. So I was trying to build an orchestra that could keep up with me by giving them as much of myself as I could.
I think I hear one rumbling. No, I shoot very sparse. But again, that's funny thing is, it's coming in on the close track. Yes, it's almost here. It's going to be right here. I'm just going to stand right here and watch it. there are some photos that, yeah, you know immediately once it's hit. You don't even have to look at them in the camera. You know that once you press that button and the strobe's fired and that athlete was in that stage of motion, you know you have it. There's nothing stopping it from being a great image.
When I first hear a shadow song, it's like a dull color palette. And as I focus my energy into listening to these sounds and curating it into a theme, it's muddy and it's like a smudged window, and you just have to keep working and working at clearing the window until you can see it, but you can feel it. You feel that it's there.
I used to be behind a camera and I'd lock up because you get overwhelmed on these photo shoots where you have 30 or 40 assistants and celebrities, and it's a large production. But what I do is I would shut my camera off and I would just watch everyone through the reflection on the LCD screen, looking at the LCD screen not for the picture that was created on the camera, but for the world that existed behind me.
Let's say that you are an ace mechanic and you have your garage where you have your tool chest and you know where your wrenches are and your screwdrivers are and your lights and your fluids, and you just know where everything is, so that as you're working you just kind of reach and it's there. Well, imagine that one day, and for every day after that for 5 years in a row, someone came in overnight and moved everything so that the next day you had to re-find all of your tools.
Why am I out here? The most straightforward answer would be the photograph train. The more circular answer would say to bring myself back down to earth a little bit. Out here because it's peaceful. It allows me to breathe a little bit better out here. And I think that's where the anxiety creeps in, is you let the rest of life overwhelm you, that the autonomic aspects of it just don't seem to follow. And you get out here and you hear the wind, or you see a train, and you just take that inhale. And everything just calms down. That's why it's almost like a natural Xanax.
When I pull out certain pieces of music, it's like the world just disappears, and I want to play it, and I really don't even care if anybody likes the way it sounds.
At my psychiatrist, I went there because I told her I'm not getting through anymore. I'm not getting by at the house anymore. I'm starting to have breakdowns with my, at that point, 2 or 3-year-old daughter and all the noises she made. And so she said, "Tell me about your daughter." And I said, well, she's this old, she does this, she makes these noises. And my psychiatrist says, "Is she also autistic?" The friends that I called and told them that I had been diagnosed with autism, the close friends all laughed. And the ones that were in the medical field more or less said, "Are you serious it took you this long to realize it?" I always knew it, but I didn't really care.
How am I doing now? What's autism like now? It's getting harder, not easier. There was a point where it seemed to be getting easier, but it's getting harder. And there are zero supports and resources around for me to go to. If I talk about aging and autism, I don't know, there's just nothing there.
There are pieces of me that I wish didn't exist, but the larger picture, the whole, I am every day grateful for, because my art is a derivative of my mind.
I'm definitely one of those people that once I start composing, I sit, I forget about eating, I forget about everything else, I just focus on what I'm doing. I just want to be obsessive about the thing I want to do, and I want to do it, and I want to work on it until it's done. And other people want, structure and and schedules and breaks.
My life kind of lives off frame lines. You see things on thirds. I'm comfortable with them being on thirds. My obsession with detail is a lot of times a detriment. It never, I don't want to say never, not usually on those around me. It's not conducive to sleep, but at the same time, yeah, maybe it helps me convince myself that I possess what everyone thinks of as art. Because I think that every artist probably goes through that struggle.
Creating is supposed to be that place where I go into my studio here, into my space alone, uninterrupted, and just work and create something. And hopefully when I'm done with it, people get something out of it.
I think a lot of people see a person that is on top of the world when it comes to photography and doing big photo shoots and making great achievements, but they often don't see the guy that goes home and cries at the end of the bed. I think those that are successful on the spectrum, they're very good at curating their image, letting the world in places that they're willing to, but not others.
Part of us that in the arts world and the creative world, photography, film, music, dance, it's a little easier to mask because I think to a certain extent people expect artists to be odd. So and maybe one of the reasons the field is so inviting is that we don't have to create yet another layer.
People who have autism, who are artists, have this language that we can talk to each other in. For me, that's lighting, and for Laura, that's music. It's less listening to a song. It's a conversation with Laura. What she wrote it's beautiful.
Neurotypicals are noisy and like to blow stuff up. I could do without that. I'd like a quieter world. A little bit more peace and pause.
Trains being all caps was a function of probably how I say it in my mind. Celebrities, autos, trains.
I know everyone really enjoyed that. That was an amazing film and gave us some insight into whom we're going to be speaking with in a few moments here. So I neglected to go over the agenda for today, but the agenda is we first heard some introductory remarks, we watched the film, and now we're going to have some time for me to ask some questions to our speakers and have them talk with us about their personal journeys on the spectrum and with their art. And after that, we'll have some time for Q&A with the audience, so you'll be welcome to use mics. We'll have a person walking around with a mic, and we have some standing mics. And those of you who are online, if you have questions, you can use the link in NIH Videocast to provide your questions and comments, and we will have someone here that is going to be able to read those out too. So we welcome you to think about questions that you have as you listen, but we are really excited now to dive into the conversation with our guests. So I'll welcome everyone to come up to the table. So again, what an incredible project and an incredible little journey that we just went on watching the film. We're just delighted to be joined by all three of you and to be able to hear from you about your personal journeys. And I'd like to first give you each an opportunity to introduce yourselves. So I'll start with Blair. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey with autism and how you discovered your gift in photography?
Hi, everybody. I'm Blair. I think the journey of autism and also photography, they very much are married throughout my life. Growing up in high school, was significantly shy and an introvert. I was aware around me that I didn't fit in, and that was okay. When I was about 17, I took a photo class where my dad gave me my first camera, and it was the first time at which I had the ability to express what I was seeing in this world to people around me, where communication wasn't strong. I was talking to them through the images that I created, and there was a comfort and a solace that existed within that. So as I progressed and going into college, that became just my way of expression. And so in many ways, finding that art, that fortuitous moment with the class and also my parents' support, became a way of opening up my life. And so when we talk about this idea, this sense of belonging within the title, I belong behind a camera. It's where my heart and my comfort is. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So next I will ask Laura. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your personal experiences on the autism spectrum and how you discovered your musical talent?
Sure. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm the music you've been hearing all afternoon. Sorry, it's like really quiet in here. I feel like I got to get everybody warmed up and maybe laughing a little bit. I hate calling it talent, just because I'm a teacher. I've been teaching students now for 30 years to play the violin, viola, cello, and I work with students with special needs. And to me, I seem to have this thing inside me that said, go do this. According to my mother, I wanted to start playing when I was 3. I pointed at the screen when I saw Chuck Perlman play on PBS and said, I want to play that. I was 10 before I got the opportunity, but it was just always there. I seem to have a little bit of a knack for picking it up quickly. But, there's a point where it's just hard work, and you're putting in the hours. My high school life was filled with orchestra rehearsals and some dance concerts, and that was pretty much it. You can ask any of my academic teachers, and they will tell you that I prioritized my music over just about everything. But autism for me was the second piece of the story. I didn't realize I had autism until my son was diagnosed at age 3. It was actually kind of a fun exchange, probably one of the more fun ones I've had with a doctor, no offense. Anybody in here? My son was having some issues. He wasn't speaking when he was supposed to, and so I brought him in, of course, to the pediatrician. I already had one child. I kind of knew the drill and what kids are supposed to do. And as the doctor's kind of explaining to me what might be going on, he's just sliding brochures across the table about adults with autism, and I'm like, okay, am I that obvious? So I got my full psych evaluation done at Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia, after my medical diagnosis at Emory. And from there, it became, oh, that's why I do this. Oh, that's why I do that. Asperger's was actually the perfect fit for me. I feel like that fits me more than autism spectrum disorder. But what I learned was the music had been my socializing instrument. So I had a harder time making friends. I didn't like hanging out. I never followed fashion trends. I mean, I know it's really hard to tell now, as trendy as I am. But music was my connection. That was where I could talk to people without actually saying a word. So I think it was good that music was there first, so that once the diagnosis came, I knew what toolbox to reach in order to help myself. Good.
Thank you, Laura. And John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into filmmaking and your journey with neurodivergence?
Before I actually introduce myself, I want to give a shout out to my class. I teach disability studies at Northern Arizona University, and this is my scheduled class time right now. And they were all hoping for a day off from class, but they are all on Zoom up there watching, and so I wanted to give them the shout out. So I'm John, and I had been making films since I was a kid. My family had a VHS recorder. Me and my brothers would make short films. It was something that I always really enjoyed. It followed me through my college years. I got a bachelor's degree in political science. I wanted to change the world. And after I graduated, I really didn't have any direction. I didn't know how to change the world or even know how to talk to people or network with people on finding some sort of path. I was just kind of floating around doing jobs. I worked as a bagel baker. And then I got inspired with like the independent film movement. The movie Clerks and other movies were coming out, and people were making these great films with almost no budget. And so since I had no money, I'm a bagel baker, I asked my parents if they would help me buy a camera. And one of the pitches that I sold to my dad was, I grew up in rural Ohio outside of Cleveland, and there was an old train that went by our community. And it had been abandoned since like the 30s, but the train bed was still there. And as a kid, we'd walk the train bed and we'd look for railroad spikes and any other kind of relic of the past. And it was something that's largely forgotten by most people, but in my family, it had a tremendous significance. And I told my dad that with this camera, I'd make a film about this train. And I never actually made that film, but the entire time I was making soundtracks, I was thinking about my dad and thinking about the train. And here I am finally making a movie, maybe different subject, but also, but still about trains. So then I moved to Arizona. I worked in a group home with adults with developmental disabilities. That was my introduction to autism. I worked with several different people on various places within the spectrum. And I worked with some people that had very challenging behavior related to their autism, worked on some people who had less issues with it. But I really became involved in the community and really the disability community as a whole. And I decided after 10 years of just working as a direct care staff that I wanted to do more. And so I went and got my master's degree in special education. I thought maybe I can help children, something that I was really wanting to do, give me a new path, a new direction. And while I was working on my master's degree, I was hooked up with a faculty that was also interested in videos. And we came up with this project where we used the filmmaking process to teach self-advocacy skills to 2 individuals with developmental disabilities. And it was really fun because we just basically made a fictional movie. We made this script, and we talked about what do you want to do with your life? And one of them wanted to be a sign language teacher, and one of them wanted to be a mechanic. And so we made this film where one of them was a mechanic, one of them was a sign language teacher. The mechanic goes, learns sign from the sign language teacher in order that they could ask a deaf woman to dance with them at a dance. And so it was really great to see like the power of video and start to do different things with it. And then I graduated. I didn't go into the field of special education, started my family. I was the stay-at-home dad. I started teaching part-time in the disability studies program at Northern Arizona University. And then that same faculty advisor approached me and said they just met this person with autism, Laura Nagel. She's starting to do some speaking engagements. Can you make a YouTube video about her that will help her with her career speaking? And I met Laura, and we had coffee, and I left the coffee shop, and I said, there's no way that I just want to make a YouTube video. Let's try to make a real film. Let's make a film festival film. And so we did that, and we pretty much made it up as we went, and that film went on to play in film festivals all around the world, won 5 awards. It was really great. It reached this whole new audience. It had that message of acceptance and appreciation. And then since that film, I've made another 3 or 4 films about people with autism. I've made several films about other people with other disabilities, cerebral palsy, chronic pain, things like that. So it's something that is really important to me and something that I really enjoy doing. In terms of my neurodivergence, this is a very new conversation for me. I've only publicly stated that recently. I have no official diagnosis, and I know that maybe some people in this crowd that might delegitimize my perspective, and I understand that, and I get it. I was one of the people that was arguing against self-identification. I was also one of those people that was arguing against when the term neurodivergent started to get bigger. Back in the day, it just meant low support needs autistic people. And then when they started throwing ADHD, which is more my traits, and some other OCD and dyslexia and intellectual disabilities under this umbrella term, it was something that I wasn't completely comfortable with. I'm someone who values accuracy. And so I had a little struggle with it. But it was actually Laura. She was guest presenting in my class. And I had a student who said that they had ADHD and identified as neurodivergent. And I asked Laura, what do you think about that? What do you think about this term getting bigger and expanding? And she said, the more the merrier. And basically that the more people that identify within this community, the more that our society is going to be able to adapt to people who think differently or experience the world differently, who have sensory perceptions differently. And so I started to be able to feel comfortable with it. I've been in the community for a very long time, working with them, teaching people about disabilities and teaching students with autism. I know, like Blair said, we all know that we're different as kids. Our peers let us know that. We know by our behaviors. Most people aren't terrified of the phone like I was. My college roommate once said to me, I've never heard you listen to a whole song. And I was like, well, because you get to the second chorus, and then you just move on, right? Like you just flip over. So I always knew that I experienced the world differently than my typical peers. And it was only after the conversation within the neurodivergent community that I feel comfortable stating that. And I'm not trying to get accommodations, and I'm not trying to be some sort of like representative of the neurodiverse community at all. I understand that there are people that have really great needs, and that there's a lot of supports that we need to provide. So I'm not trying to take anything away from that. Just like in the film soundtrack, there are challenges, there are things that happen. It's not just all about appreciation. So I just want to make that point clear. But for me, being part of this community that has really welcomed me, that's the part that I feel good about. That, you know, I could talk to Laura and I could talk to Blair, and we understand. We're experiencing things in very, very similar ways. And for me, that's what it's all about.
Hey, John, are you trying to tell me you've never listened to one of my songs all the way through?
There's an end to your songs?
Thank you, John. So now I'm going to ask you all to tell us a little bit about what inspired you in the creation of this film and what you were really excited about as you created it.
I can go to bat, yeah. Why not? Is that the batting order? Okay, all right, I'll go first. How do you say no to Denise? It was such a compelling presentation, because I remember when I first got the email from Tom at First Place, and I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around exactly what you were envisioning. And I was trying to decipher it from text. On top of my autism, I'm also severely dyslexic, so sometimes emails can have very interesting outcomes, and I have to go back and read. Thank you, Apple, for having screen readers built into your OS, just saying. So when the project was sent to me, I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But once I saw the film that John took of Blair watching the train, I was like, I can't stop now. I want to keep working on this. There was something that was compelling about your energy when you were watching it. I mean, I love trains, just probably not to the same extent you do. So I'm looking at pictures of trains. I'm like, okay, orange, yellow, what does that happen? How does that picture in my head? And all that I could hear was the Orange Blossom Special. this is a fiddle tune. I'm like, no, I can't do this. But watching you, I saw how excited he got. And there was this description, I don't know if it was in the film, some of the footage. There was a description you gave, Blair, about the woods, being on the edge of the woods and the train passing by and how that energy of the woods somehow contributed to that. So when you listen to the piece that I composed, there are some hidden treasures for you in there about this film. One, the harmonies are in tritones, which is common for train engines to have, where they have the 3 tones. There's a soft part in the middle. That's actually the woods speaking to Blair while he's listening to the train, and you're just feeling the wind of it pass. And then the rumble at the very beginning was something you mentioned about the tracks rumbling before the train came. So all of that he talked about ended up in the score. So I was inspired by Blair.
Mine is, apologize for my brevity, but I got called by Tom, and he said, do you want to do a film about watching trains? And that's one of the more simple questions I could ever answer. Yes, I like to watch trains. There's going to be some guy with a camera next to you. A little less excited about that, but going out into the forest and seeing trains as I kind of described in the film, that's how I recenter. So yeah, after a long production or other productions we'll talk about later, there is a need for me to go into the forest and watch a train. It kind of gets me back to a place where the rest of my career doesn't matter, and what people probably see as the exciting parts of my career actually are not. The truth is, being in the forests of northern Arizona and watching a freight train go by is the bee's knees. And so any request that involves me standing next to a train track taking pictures of trains, obviously the answer is going to be yes. So that's what inspired me.
I was inspired right off the bat, but I have to say a little backstory. So first place, and Tom and Denise, and Tom Ortega's right here. He helped produce this film, does a lot of work with First Place. They already had the name Soundtracks. They already knew Laura was going to make music to Blair's photographs. And then they kind of brought me on just kind of to do like a behind the scenes, like how they communicate with each other and how they share their art. And we talked about filming like Zoom calls and stuff of them having this conversation. And honestly, that didn't really excite me at all. I wanted to do more. I like to tell stories. I like to tell stories in different kinds of ways. And so what really inspired me was when I asked Tom, can I just do what I want to do with this? And he said yes. And so the inspiration, and after that, once we 3 of us had the freedom to create this project, and this was all 3 of us. We did this together. Blair, he had what he wanted to say. We talked about what he wanted to say. Laura talked about what she wanted to say. So it was really a collaboration between all 3 of us, and I just got to put it all together in 10 minutes.
Well, so what do you hope that people will take away from this film when they watch it? What were you hoping to convey?
I'll start this. I wanted it to be honest. Going back to even to that previous question, like the reality of what my career is and what people see is, and I alluded to it in the film, it's masking in the sense of you will see the images and you'll see the celebrities, but the truth is the equal side of my life is unfortunately it's in situations I'm crying on the bed with fears of not fitting in and inadequacy. That's still ongoing. It's not a thing that goes away, no matter how large the accomplishments have been. I wanted to make sure that people know that if they're, obviously for years I went through it quietly, but to me that tells me that somebody else is going through it quietly too. And so my hope was to be honest to the camera and to John during the film, so that if somebody else that saw it is experiencing that they know that they're not alone in it. And so it was more of an outreach to the person I don't know, to try and give them comfort with knowing that that this is a journey that doesn't mean you're limited, and the downsides of spectrum is they aren't necessarily, they may be tough at the time, but there are benefits to them somehow. So.
I like that we have a button to speak. I'm fascinated with this button. I actually thought I was pretty much done before this project came up. I figured nobody really cared about anything I did. I did a lot of work in advocacy when I was in my 20s and 30s. I was a single parent of 2 kids, one on the spectrum that I raised on my own. And I worked in the state of Georgia with Emory University, with all the colleges there, just trying to help make the world a little bit better for people on the spectrum. And I felt like there were a lot of questions, and then suddenly it just went crickets. And I couldn't quite figure out what that was. I mean, I'm not some extraordinary person, right? I'm not somebody memorizing pi to 24 points or, writing entire symphonies in an hour. That's just not the type of person that I am. I'm spectacularly mediocre, and I think it's actually kind of fun to prove that people with disabilities can just have a life, just a normal, everyday life. We don't have to be some sort of source of inspiration, or you don't have to watch our story and cry. You could just sit back and enjoy the fact that we created this piece of art, and we did it despite challenges brought up by a disability. So I guess what I hope that people take away from that is that I'm a hardworking artist that creates everything. Every bit of music you've heard so far since you've been in this room has been something I recorded on my own with only me, no other musicians, using a MacBook. This is a lot of the instruments that you hear, like the horns, those are all MIDI, and I work hard to manipulate it to give you the most real sound. I'd love to be able to do more, and I'd love to be able to do that dream I had as a kid, which is to play Carnegie Hall. I don't know that that's ever in the cards, but I really did feel kind of like the expiration date had hit, being somebody that was older. Not that I feel like I'm that old yet, but I don't know. There seems to be, like, I hit 40 and everyone went, who are you? Now I'm getting closer to 50, and I don't know, I just feel invisible. And I think there's a lot of women in the room that can actually follow along with the story of just feeling like you're fading into the background, which is something I brought up in the film. So I hope by watching this, it kind of brings attention back to it, that, hey, we're still around, hey, we're still creating stuff, and yeah, maybe I didn't, invent the cure to cancer, but I think it sounds pretty cool.
Well, for me, Soundtracks is a movie about spaces. It's about these spaces and these places that neurodivergent people go. They're places where we go for our sanity, to keep us grounded, but they're also places that we go to create. And one of the messages I'd like people to take away from this is that really, if you're somebody who's not neurodivergent, or you have a family member or a child that's neurodivergent, let them pursue those interests that they're really interested in. Let them pursue those passions, and maybe they'll be able to do it for money, or maybe not, but that's what they need to really deal with the whole rest of life, all the other stuff that goes on. And so that's the message that I'd like people to take away, is give us the space. Let us go to those places.
So what do each of you love the most about what you do now, and this process of creation and the outreach that you're having with people today because of the work that you do?
All right, I hit the button first, so I get to go. Oh, I know. We need a little stuff fall from the sky. Oh, no, that's Simon with his button. All right, never mind. Simon. What was the question?
About what you love about what you do, and how it's created opportunities for you to interact with people.
I just can't imagine a world without music. I know there's all these studies about how it grows the brain, and I quote those too to parents. I mean, it gets kids in the studio, it gets people playing that wouldn't usually play a musical instrument. But I think the goal is just to have this incredible thing that we can do, which is make sound. We're just organizing sound waves, and it makes us feel things. It makes us think things. It can elevate us out of a situation. I mean, there's some great movies, right? That would be nothing without their soundtracks. If you look back at the original King Kong, you know how ridiculous that looks without that incredible soundtrack? I mean, it's this clay guy, attacking a tower, but the music, you're like, wow, this is amazing. So I think music is just this piece that keeps me connected to the world. The neurodivergent side of it, because I lived so long without the diagnosis, I want everyone to be positive. I want kids that are diagnosed to have hope, because you should have hope. And maybe you see places where your diagnosis is a superpower for you. For me, it has really been an albatross on my shoulders, and it has kept me from being able to complete auditions for professional symphony orchestras because I can't get through the anxiety. I can play the music, I just can't get through the process. It's made me a self-employed person because working for other people is really difficult. So I think I missed out on a lot of great opportunities to play with other musicians because of the diagnosis.
So I love my jobs, and I have lots of jobs. I create films. I have my production company, Wild Asparagus Productions. It's my part-time job. I also, like I said, I teach at NAU. I'm also the academic program coordinator for the minor in disability studies. And I love that I'm allowed to do lots of different things. I don't have to focus on one thing. If I don't want to do something one day, I can do something else that's related to my job. So I really love that. But also, I feel really good about I'm giving something back. I'm trying to make a difference in this world. I've had this passion since I was a kid, got my degree in political science, want to change the world. And I love that every semester I get another 65 students that I get to talk to. Hopefully, maybe they'll get a little inspired to talk to 65 people and stuff. So that's a big part of my job and my job satisfaction.
Photography is obviously my profession, but also it is a personal expression, and I kind of always make you can delineate. You can say, okay, this is shot for someone, or this is shot for me. But the truth is, what I love most about it is it's the necessity. I need to create. I need to press that button, and I need to whether the world around is trains or if it's athletes or celebrities. I think some people would want to press that button so that they could show off the art they created, but mine is the images. I'm just trying to open that conversation to somebody. And so I love my profession because, again, it's that conversation with the world around me that's enabled throughout the art. And so I would never trade it for anything. I'm always grateful for it. But yeah, that's it.
Oh, well, thanks. So do any of you want to comment on some of the challenges you've faced as you've developed over time, or maybe challenges that you have right now that you are working through as you continue on your journey?
I'll start it. Challenges for productions are difficult. It depends on who the client is. Sometimes I will be open with what's going on, and other times I'm not as comfortable on set to express that, and so hence you mask the struggles. The truth is, I remember shooting a campaign for a TV show called River Monsters, where we had closed down a beach in South Beach, Florida, and I had so much of anxiety and attack that I showed up unconscious in the car because my assistant was driving and I had fainted. But then you get on set and everything goes away. Every bit of fear turns into creation, and you are thinking not in linear terms of worry about the outside being seen. You're thinking in f-stops, and you're thinking of exposure. And so there are challenges, but in overcoming those, I believe that you can have a greater outcome than if you never had that challenge in the first place.
Some of the challenges I face is just getting outside of my comfort zone. I stayed in some of those jobs like the bagel baker, even the group home for a lot longer than I probably wanted to, just because I was afraid of leaving that bubble and having to talk to different people. And that's an ongoing challenge for me. It's definitely gotten easier. I've been teaching now for 4 years in person. It's helped a lot. But probably one of the biggest challenges that I just have is just taking care of the routine maintenance of life. I struggle with that with my car, and I struggle with that with myself. Just making sure I'm changing the oils, eating right, taking care of those responsibilities that you have to do.
This is the big one. And I'm sure you guys get your ears filled all the time with all of the challenges. That's how you make good TV commercials. No, I'm serious, right? Here's the sob story. But I think it narrows down to two massive points for me. One is entrepreneurship. Just wanting to be somebody who creates things and is in charge of things and is not always the beneficiary of a program. I don't want to live off of people's generosity. I want to have the pride of working and earning it for myself and going, yes, I created this, I got paid adequately for it. If I clocked even a quarter of the hours that I have donated in the loosest of quotes here, giving people advice or helping other organizations who turn around and make money off of the ideas that I give them, I actually would probably not be working on the 11-year-old Mac that I have right now. It's incredibly frustrating to always be in this position of, let's wait for the funding. Let's wait for a government or an institution to make a decision and then trickle funds down to me as somebody on the spectrum. So I want that. I want that opportunity to learn how to do things for myself as an entrepreneur. The other part of it is I actually love, like you, I love teaching. I really love the excitement of a student when they figure something out that they couldn't do before. It's just the best feeling in the world. And I chose a teaching profession on purpose. But I run into a lot of people who think that I failed somehow at being a performance artist. And I then, lowered myself into teaching standards. And then when you add the autism diagnosis on that, it almost feels like it fits. Oh, that must be why. I'm like, no, let me list the ways. I don't have the prodigy package. I didn't come in as, a young male that had the right teachers, right? I was an obnoxious, precocious young girl who did whatever I wanted to. I had to, a quick edit. I was impressed I did that so fast. And I had all these obstacles. I had terrible leaders in the community. William Prussell is a very good example, and if you take a little time to look him up online, you'll know that he's in jail now for some of the things that he did to young people while he was teaching. So, this was the world. This is where I went. It was not because of the autism I didn't make it there. It was because of a lot of other systemic issues. It's just autism has become the convenient excuse for people to go, oh, that's why you haven't done that. I will work harder than anyone you know. I work 6 days a week. I have 80 students, and I barely make it by. And that's just ridiculous. We have to have a world where people can work hard. I don't care what the label is, and they make a decent living to afford their own homes and their own retirement.
Well, thank you for sharing some of those challenges. Now I'm going to turn to just asking you, who supported you on this journey and inspired you to your work? I know that everybody has someone in their life that may have contributed to their success, and I'd love to hear about yours.
So like most people, I would say the first big supporter of me was my mom. She supported all my endeavors. She convinced my dad to let me buy that, or have them buy that camera for me. She always allowed that. She also was very supportive of me. I was a very sensitive kid. She gave me the proper support and hugs that I needed. And the other person for sure is my wife. She is actually a faculty at Northern Arizona University. She's a scientist in the forestry department. And tonight she is going to be honored with the President's Diversity Award because not only does she support me, she supports all her students, and particularly her neurodivergent and disabled students. And she really is the one that helps me with that routine maintenance of life. And so she's been a huge supporter. And then also the students, it's really refreshing to go in and get the energy that you get from the students. And their generation is so much more open than my generation, and it really gives me a lot of hope. And they support me by just getting me through and letting me focus on that there's a lot of progress happening. There's bad things going on, and we all know about that, but there's a lot of good too.
Laura?
Oh, yeah, I was supposed to go first. There's instructions here. See, it's the button. I had great teachers. I was really lucky. I grew up outside of Atlanta when outside of Atlanta didn't have much. And I had this teacher named Stephanie Grafe Rollins, who was the founder of the Suzuki Association of Georgia. And it ended up being a perfect fit. She somehow understood me. She knew how to ask the right questions and help me think through problems. She was definitely great. I actually made a film about her when I was in college called My Violin Cries, which is how I used my violin to mourn her after her passing with cancer. I had also other great teachers, Norma Bernal and Brad Stewart, Brad being the only one that's still alive out of that group. But I did have great support at home. My mom understood the value of art, and my dad, who could not sing a note in tune to absolutely save his life, just loved music, and in fact, he bought me this violin that I'm going to play on today. Sorry. My dad passed away in March. When he bought me the violin, he spent about $4,000 on it, which in 1992 was a lot of money to spend on a teenager. And I said, Dad, this is expensive. Why are you spending so much money? He said, well, you can't play a car at Carnegie Hall.
Thanks for sharing that, Laura. And we're really grateful to have you here today to honor your dad's gift to you and his support for you. And I know that you told us before that you're really feeling him today. So thank you so much for sharing with us personally about that. Blair, I'm going to give you the stage to share about someone who inspired you along the way. I understand that you have a really special story to share, and I'd love to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, I too was fortunate to have the support of my dad with picking up my first camera, and it was an opportunity where he gave me his camera that he had in college that he had bought to do his film class and photograph. Even my mom, I think, was part of his college projects. And what it ended up being was it was one of the first times in my life where I had my parents' support and also a choice that I can pursue an art that I wanted to. That actually, it was a freeing, but we're probably, and that will play into this next piece. But really, my wife and my daughter. My daughter's 6, and she knows that her dad has a condition that makes things a little different. There's actually, and forgive me if I get the name of the show incorrect. Your alarm's going, but there's a cartoon I believe called Superhero or Hero Elementary, and it has these these heroes or superhero kids, and they do things. But one of the characters' name is AJ, and he has autism. And they touch on the idea that he wears headphones sometimes, and he has sensory overload, and it's very much like I do. So my daughter, she's been supportive, even at a young age, even at 4 or 5 years old. I'll have times when I'm really not keeping up with things, and she'll bring headphones into the living room so I can listen, and so I can actually calm myself. Fast forward to 2 years ago, and I was asked to go to the edge of space to photograph the Earth, and I wanted her to be included. I asked her if it was all right if Daddy went to space, and she said, just don't hit an asteroid. But when I got to it, it was 8 months of training. You go, when the Pentagon greenlit the project, you go initially pretty quickly to get your spacesuit fitted, and that was a terrifying experience, because I think everyone thinks of being in a spacesuit as this quiet breathing, but the truth is there's a lot of motors that are going on to keep you alive, and for somebody who gets overwhelmed by sounds, that was extraordinarily difficult. And so for 8 months, between having personal training at the gym and also meeting with the psychologists from both military and personal to try and put together a plan of how we were going to get through the project, we were able to get me to a place where I would be comfortable enough to do the project. A curveball was thrown a little bit late in the game where they said, now we're going to need you to do the photo shoot at the edge of space, but we don't want your heart rate going over 70. Because any excess heart rate and respiration is going to ice over the canopy and will ruin the whole shoot. So now we have to do the project, keep calm. There were certain drugs that helped a little bit with that, but also there's a lot of preparation. But 2 nights before, at 3 a.m. I had a breakdown where I was having convulsions in bed. I asked my wife, I told her I didn't want to do it. She said, you're going to be fine. We're going to take one step. Tomorrow we're going to wake up. We're going to have breakfast. You're going to take a shower. You're going to go to the base. You'll do your briefings and your trainings and your spacesuit fitting one last time. Then you're going to go to sleep. And then the next day we're going to wake up and you'll go to the base and you'll go to space. One step at a time. Let's just go to bed so we can wake up tomorrow. What it ended up being was the project was a love song to Ava, my daughter. I wanted her to know that I have limitations, but after the flight, there's no more limitations.
All right, well, thank you so much for sharing that. And now we are going to be able to see some of the images that Blair took in space. I know that you all are going to just love this. So we can pull up the video.
My name is Blair Bunting, and I'm an advertising photographer based in Arizona. I did a photo shoot at the edge of space to show the legacy of the U-2 spy plane. In collaboration with the incredible men and women at Beale Air Force Base, we told the story of the Dragon Lady through a series of images captured both on the ground and over 70,000 feet above the Earth. It was an incredible experience that I will never forget.
Tower Dragon 92 is request a attack departure. Hey man, if we can bring the plane back about 35 feet, I'd be grateful. Let's go to a stack real fast, and from there we'll get the lighting scenario for this. Looks like we're going to be shooting to the north, dude. Can't wait to get on the ground, man. My ass is hurting so bad. We get to have a beer after this, right? Hey, Dad. I didn't tell you, but I took your lens. I brought it to space. I just want to say thank you for your support.
You guys enjoy that?
Yes, absolutely incredible. And even better when you have a giant screen behind you. It's better than just watching it on your iPad. So that was amazing, and probably the only personal kind of view of space I'll ever have. I don't think I'm going. Not planning it anyway.
You don't want to, trust me.
But that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now I'd like to just turn to asking you what you all, or actually maybe Blair, I should just give you a chance to reflect after watching that. Anything you want to tell us about?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. There's a lot of factors that you kind of, that going so high has its challenges. some of the things that were of interest is I lost my memory for about 2 weeks. I had everything until about an hour after I landed, and then it was all gone. But I never want to return back. I thought it was going to be this transitive experience where you go up and you're closer to the heavens, and they ask you if you want to take anything personal. And so I actually took my dog's tags. And the truth is, you get up so high and you start to see the blackness around you. And unfortunately, it didn't have that experience. It wasn't like I felt closer to Riley, my dog. What I found is that everything I loved and everything I will and have ever loved was on this blue glowing ball below me. And the sensation and the idea of what is home. Home is never struck me more. And so, yeah, I know that I know it was an exciting one. I will never do it again, though.
And what did your daughter think of this?
Ava is, she's my own little hype man. And sometimes you want to just go a place and not have it enter into a conversation, but she's always there and she's always excited about it. I was talking with a senior official in the military about her specifically after we had done it, and we knew that it was successful. And I told them that my daughter had a great imagination. She was going to go to the moon and send me a text message. And that official said, after what you've just done, you can never tell her that she can't.
Wow, that's so amazing. So thank you. So for you all, what would you like to share with autistic youth and adults who are interested in pursuing a creative career or just generally interested in pursuing their dreams? What have you learned on your journey that you'd love to impart to them?
I can speak to that. I mean, I only do it for a living. Sorry, I have to laugh. It's just the only way this afternoon is going to finish. There was a study that was done, and I can't remember where it was, and I hate that I have to find this paper that I read, where they tried to study art and decide what made great art. And so they looked at all the masters. They looked at, Michelangelo and, all these past artists. And they were able to come to zero conclusions on what made great art. But they did figure one thing out. Every masterpiece was only a few brushstrokes away from being a total disaster. So if I give advice to any student, it is this: know when to let it go. Art is something that you cultivate. It's not something that you finish. You will never be done with anything. You're never going to be happy. I'm sitting watching this film and going, okay, I was late on that downbeat. I can find everything I did wrong. But you have to let them go and move on to the next thing, because that's how you grow as an artist.
I think, like I said previously, that explore those things that you're passionate about, and if creating art is one of those things, explore it. And do it, and try to do it at a professional level, but don't be upset if you can't get there. Do it for the love of doing it. And then if you do it long enough, you're going to find there's a way to fit it in with your life and maybe financially and stuff. So just keep doing it and keep creating.
For individuals pursuing a career in the arts, your art is your soul, and it's the grounding aspect of your journey of life. And so there's a lot of hope, I think, for kids that people want to get into this profession, make money and whatnot. But when things happen, when you're having days where that mental struggle is there, you have to have that art first, because that's what will keep you around and keep you and help you get through it. So if I were to say any advice, it would be to have that solid relationship with your art before ever making it into a profession.
Thanks. And then my final question for you before we go to the audience to give them a chance to talk is, how do you hope the world will change in the coming years to make life easier and be more inclusive for autistic people and neurodivergent people?
Do we have another hour? I mean, we have been watching films and everything too about what's going on. I would like our art to kind of speak for that. But what would I like to see change in the world? Just in general, I want to see hate go away. I don't like a world with hate for any reason, whether it's for the color of someone's skin or their religion or their diagnosis. The fact that we can't be in a room and just be different. I don't understand. I know that there's this whole thing with, group mentalities and, people want a sense of belonging, but we're a globe now. We live in a global world. We know what's going on in China as soon as we know what's going on in our own backyard. And this is the universe that we're living in. And so we have to realize that there's always going to be somebody different in the room. And if you see somebody that is sitting alone in a corner, it might not be a bad idea to walk up and say, hey, my name is, nice to meet you, and just chat.
First, I want to say we've come a long way in the 25 years or so that I've been involved in the autism community. We've made great strides. We're not having the same conversation about tragedy and deficiency. We're talking about acceptance now, and that's a big change. And I hope that this trajectory that we're on continues. I've had conversations with many people in this room about the work they're doing, about designing architecture to be more inclusive to people's sensory needs, instilling this in our public architecture. We talk about it at our university. How do we include our students with ADHD and autism? How do we make their academic career more successful, providing these accommodations and stuff? And so I think we have a lot of good ideas out there, and there's a lot of people working on it. And I just hope that all these good ideas actually get put into practice.
I'm going back a little bit to what I had mentioned prior to the space flight video. Education, but also support at a young age. That, I know it sounds silly, but that cartoon with a hero that had autism made it possible for a father and a daughter to have a relationship that is more open at 5 years old, and already for her to realize it. So much so that there's been times when there is another kid that, a child her age that has aspects that she can identify already, that she can help be supportive. And at 6 years old, I can't even remember what 6 years old was for me. First grade was a blur until about college. So I think that the younger ways, or the younger that we can reach somebody to teach them maybe about a parent, maybe about another friend that they have, and then open their heart to how to support that person. I think it's a large step in how do we make the lives of those affected more full, more fruitful.
Well, I hope you all will join me in thanking our speakers for sharing so personally with us. Feel really privileged to hear from you, and we've just really enjoyed seeing all the images, feeling all the feels as we could travel this journey with you, so thank you. And now I'd like to invite Stephen Isaacson to join us. He is the Neurodiversity Liaison for the Office of National Autism Coordination. And we're going to have some time for Q&A with the audience. And also online, if you are watching on NIH Videocast, you can use the link there to share your questions. And Stephen will be monitoring those, and we'll be happy to take your questions. So we have a standing mic, and we also have one of our team members, Luis Valdez-Lopez, running around with the mic to help with questions. I was just reminded, I guess, I'm sorry, I skipped the moment first, actually, before we go to the Q&A, that we are going to hear from Laura.
Oh, we're going to do that first? Okay.
I thought.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. We'll do it. We'll do it. Okay.
I'm sorry. So we have, Laura's going to play for us live, and so we are going to have a moment to hear from her right here in this room, an original composition.
I'm going to give you a note beforehand. This is the first time I've played my violin since my father's passing in March, and this piece is actually written for him.
That was beautiful, Laura. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciated that. So now we will turn to the Q&A. So does anyone have a question that you'd like to ask our guests? Dr. Gordon.
First, I want to reiterate my thanks to all of you for being here and for speaking so eloquently and for presenting us with wonderful art. The work that you've all presented today is clearly imbued with tremendous emotion. And Blair and Laura especially, but really all three of you have told us about how your art has given you the ability to express and communicate in ways that is more difficult to do outside of the art. And I'm wondering, in the experience of learning to create the art and of creating the art, how that helps you communicate with the people around you in other ways as well. Or do you really rely on the art to communicate the deep emotions that you feel?
Wow, that's actually a deep question. I think, I'm going to guess. I think I feel emotions just like anybody else does. I think what I miss is the label that makes it obvious to everyone else in the room. My expression of it can sometimes be a little awkward. In fact, my husband and I like to actually joke around because you know how some people have like resting mad face? I apparently have resting confused face. And he thinks I'm confused when I'm not, so that's usually my I'm processing face. I think music makes it a little clearer what I'm feeling, and I can think back way into childhood when I would be performing, And I would notice that if I intended for the audience to cry, they would cry. And if I wanted to make them laugh, I could make them laugh, which was something I struggled to do in conversation. So, yeah, I would say that music is just, it gave me a vocabulary of emotion that I didn't have before.
Picking up the camera was, it helped the process of being able to be open to somebody and emotionally vulnerable, because there are times on set when you're creating art that's overwhelming. And especially Tom is a gentleman that I worked with before he was with First Place, and he's seen me on set on an ad campaign. There is a certain freedom that having that camera and picking it up for the first time to create art, the art is what you start the conversation with, but it has opened up my life to knowing people like him and a number of other art directors and creative directors where I can have conversations that I couldn't have had before I had the camera. It's an interesting one, but you find that the more you have that conversation on set, the more people you find that are just in the exact same experience going through that life, and it makes for a bond that is close beyond the creation that you had on that project. It makes for somebody that you can trust and that you can talk to, and so in a way, my condition stopped me from being able to talk until the camera was brought, and the camera was initially the mouthpiece, but then made it to where I was able to open up to a way that I was not before.
If I just can make one quick point. I think my films show my sensitivity and my concern and care for people, and I think I do that with all my films, and that's one of the ways that I communicate my inner genuineness towards helping and lifting all people.
Thanks. Are there other questions? Okay, we're going to the top.
Hi there. First off, I just want to thank you guys for, sharing all of this stuff about your life. And one thing that I noticed both Laura and Blair talking about, and I don't know if this is true for you, John, but I just wanted to know, I heard from both of you the experience of understanding your own neurodevelopmental struggles when you have a child as well who might, or John or Blair during the film, I remember there's a moment where they asked, do you think your daughter might have autism? And for Laura, you said that it was through your second child. So I was just wondering, what's the experience of being someone with being neurodivergent and having a neurodivergent child?
That's a great question. And we still don't actually know with my daughter if she is, but what's been really special about it, whether or not she turns out to have a neurodiversity or not, is we've been able to have an open dialogue between a father and a daughter at a young age, to where she understands that if she has feelings and experiences emotions in a certain way, that it is okay, and that if she, like we had said from one of the previous questions, if she sees another child or friend that has that supporting them in a certain way can be beneficial. I think that there are days when I go through struggles internally of, would I want my daughter to have what I have and go through what I go through? And some days that's heartbreaking, the idea of it, because it's painful. But there are other days when it is the catalyst that has inspired me to do projects like the one we saw. So I look at it as either way she'll always know that I am there for her. And I never thought at a young age that it would be the other way around and that she would be there for me, but it's made us closer.
I have 2 kids. My youngest is 23, and my oldest is 25. My oldest is not on the spectrum. And the reason I bring that up is raising the younger one, raising Shay, the one that's on the spectrum, I kind of understood where the potholes were, even though my diagnosis came late. So I felt like I was a pretty good help for finding the right educational supports for him. And in fact, I ended up homeschooling him from grade 7 through high school because I couldn't get the supports I needed at school. The challenge for me came with my daughter, who's incredibly independent and an incredible human being. And I was always afraid that she would feel like she'd have to take care of me. And that was a huge concern on my mind all the time. In fact, she even went to college early. She went to Simon's Rock. It's in St. Great Barrington. It's an early college at age 15 because I wanted her to be around neurotypical people and not feel like she had to take care of me. And then I got some great feedback from her that made me feel really good, and not from her as well, also from her teachers. It turned out that having a spectrum parent meant that she had to verbalize how she felt more often. And her teacher said that she was actually quite good at expressing in words how she felt and getting what she needed and advocating for her own needs. So I guess in that way, the thing I was most worried about was that she wouldn't be complete. I actually apparently gave her a tool that she needed. I don't know how else to word that. Sorry. I feel like I'm stumbling over it.
No, thank you.
Can I actually say something? So part of my own acceptance of being part of this community is from watching my daughter experience the world. And she's her own thinker, and her brain operates in its own way, but I see a lot of how I interface with the world at her age. So that was partly, and I didn't go through it, but partly why I can consider myself neurodivergent.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And we'll go to a question from online.
Good afternoon, everyone. First question from online is, as artists, do you ever experience artist block? If so, how do you go about your process of getting past it and finding your inspiration again?
Sure. Of course, everyone who goes through an artist block, it's difficult to produce and put out all the time, right? There's a point where you're not consuming enough coming in, you're putting too much going out, and your reservoir runs dry. I would say finding something completely opposite to do. So when I learned to ice skate, I'm terrible at it, by the way. Everyone cringes when I'm on skates. And I'm like, not only do I want to learn to skate, I want to learn to play hockey. And so I found the farthest thing from playing the violin, and I try to do it, but it clears my mind. There's something about being in the gear and being on the ice and being totally clueless on what to do. I have the grace of a rock. But, it clears your mind, taking walks in the woods, whatever. Just walk completely away and don't feel pressured to come back until you're ready. That would be my advice.
So now I'm going to say the exact opposite. Yes, I have gone through artist blocks. And there's a couple... if this person that is asked sounds like they might be an artist as well, there is different types of it, especially in a professional career. There's the artist block in the I need to create something, but I just can't see it. And then there's the artist block that I'm not working, and therefore my art is not any good anymore. And with art being such a personal thing, it's very quick for you to transpose the properties of my personal value and my art's value. So I've gone through that for years. There was, heartbreaking, but I keep a lot of cameras at the house, and there's a couple that are just always ones that I take out. And there were times and periods where I went through such an artist block that I would charge up the camera with the best intentions and not go out that day, but it would be such a long time that between the periods of picking up the camera that the battery had gone dead, and I had to recharge it again. But what I've found for me is being willing to not take it seriously, being willing to, I think when you get to a certain pedestal, you feel especially when there's a large figure of money attached to the work that you create, you feel that you shouldn't do it unless you're getting paid for it. And that's a danger and a pothole to fall into. And what I started having to do is just saying, hey, I'm going to go out every day, and I do every day about 3 to 5 p.m., and I just take pictures of the world around, not for any purpose of ever selling or creating great artworks, but just for appreciating the light, because my industry is all about light, and it's being able to experience it and tell yourself that's what light looks like. And what I've found is, in doing so, the next time I pick my camera up on set, I'm sharper.
And Claire, did you have a question?
It's kind of more of a thank you, I guess. You might have gathered I'm not from around here. I was here in the States 2 weeks ago. It takes me 38 hours to get to this side of the coast. And I went home, and then I knew I was coming back. And Susan blocked your ears, but I nearly didn't make it because I was at the airport. So overwhelmed by the journey that was to come that I was stuck. But I have a really strong belief that I end up in the places that I need to be because I need to hear something. And you, particularly, Blair, what you said about the compartmentalise, I've never been able to articulate that. And Prue's laughing because she knows exactly how much I do that. So I just really wanted to say thank you to the three of you and tell you that it worked. Someone heard it. And I don't know how to thank you guys for the tools that you've just given me through the film and through the conversation. So thanks.
If I may, you've actually hit on a couple things for me. There were one of the parts of the flight with the dog's tags and taking my dog's tags up and not being able to cry. They wanted to compartmentalize emotion because when you're in a spacesuit, you can't touch your face. If you open it, unfortunately, it's a fatal situation. So when they told me you need to have take something that is meaningful to you, but also you can't cry, and as soon as you do, shut that off. That was how I kind of learned almost the value of compartmentalizing. But going back to your traveling, before COVID, I was doing a lot of shoots in Beijing, and one of the more significant breakdowns I've ever had, and the first time I've ever experienced a true panic attack was prior to the flight, because I said, I'm not going to survive this 18-hour flight. No logic actually hit in, and what's special for me about that to this day, that is the first breakdown that was significant enough for me to seek professional help, and that was the catalyst for being able to understand a little bit more about this life and this experience. So I as much as it was painful, it was it's probably what made all these things possible. So thank you for being honest about that. That's pretty cool.
So we'll have time for 2 more questions. We're going to take one more online question.
So this message is from online, from Laura's daughter, Alana. She said, I am so proud to be your daughter. Can you explain what it was like to share your love for music with me and teach me violin?
Oh, wow. Sneaky little thing. Yes, I think Alana and I have a really special a bond. One of the cool things you get to do, and you'll experience this as your daughter gets older, you know your kids as kids, and then you get to re-know them as adults, and you develop a whole new relationship, and you don't have to worry about if they're going to step in front of a moving vehicle. It's amazing what you can develop, and for Alana and I think it was arts. I have a dance background. I started off as a dancer at age 3, and she's a dancer. So we always had this thing about movement and music. And I need to stop playing with that because I'm sure that's loud. And so she's picked up the violin, and I worked with her middle school. I came in and volunteered with the orchestra, and then they enjoyed having me there so much they ended up hiring me out of their funds that they raised for me to conduct the orchestra. And we had a blast. I mean, it was so much fun working with the kids. They all worked really hard. When John made The Shadow Listener, the documentary about me, we actually had a concert together. And Alana said, well, hey, let me ask some of my friends from school. Maybe they'll come. And we filled an orchestra. We had a whole string orchestra of kids that came from the people that she knew. I couldn't believe it. And they all just were so excited to help and play. So the orchestra in the film is actually all former students and friends of Alana's who she brought in, and she's playing too on her violin. So yeah, it was kind of fun that we had those end points of starting off life with music and then having this big concert before she went off to Simon's Rock. So yeah, and I'm calling you later. Wait, what camera's on?
So I'd like to say hello to Blair. I've worked with Blair for many years at Discovery Channel, and one of the things that the reason I kept going back to Blair, and I feel a little bit foolish in the sense, almost like a clown, that I was like, I didn't even realize, he would tell me he would have close to panic attacks or things, but we just kind of brushed over it and we just kind of moved on. But one of the things that we kept going back to Blair for his fantastic work was really, what struck me most was his pre-work before every project. And I'm not sure if that was just part of condition or what you were doing, but when Blair would pre-work, all this pre-work would set us up for success. So any sort of challenges, any sort of hurdles, just logistics and such, he would really be fantastic about taking those things and just checking them off the list, So when we would go to the actual shoot, we were able to free up our minds and collaborate and just, get into that creative space where we had ideas of what was supposed to happen, and then you kind of, the magic happens when you kind of do all that pre-work beforehand. And Blair was phenomenal at doing that. And I'd like to ask the other two panelists, pre-work for what you guys do or how you get into your process. How does that, is that something that you use because of how you guys are functioning? Or, is it just, how does it help you move along with your projects? And Blair, you can talk about that as well.
Hey everybody, this is Linus. That photo shoot that I arrived to unconscious in the passenger seat was his. River Monsters. And a fun little backstory, if we will. We were asked to photograph this campaign with am I allowed to say it at this point by now, fake fish. A $25,000 fake fish made by Universal Studios and the Atlanta Aquarium. And they drove this thing out in a truck to have Jeremy Wade, the host of River Monsters, fight it in the ocean. We had a number of different tasks to learn on that one because we were also going to put a lot of electricity and people in the water at the same time. And so my thoughts were I need to start learning the dynamics of light with that water and with that chaos so that I can, one, safely get the shoot done, and two, also make a good image. So for about 2 weeks prior, I went to my assistant's house every day, and we took a hose and we watered the top of his hibachi grill to watch how light refracted off of the hibachi grill, knowing that the paint that would be used on the fake fish would have the same transitive properties, and therefore your diffraction that comes to the camera would be equal. A funny thing about that shoot, though, is the host, who is a wonderful man. Jeremy's a great guy. We have 5 assistants in the water, and probably Linus and I, and myself, I'm taking the pictures, and Jeremy says to the crew, I once caught a bull shark at this exact same beach. And we were a little bit hesitant because we're in the dark using flashing lights and a lot of movement in the ocean. And then he says, yeah, it was last night. And we all immediately went out of the ocean and started shooting on shore. So.
I struggle with preparation. It's one of the things that kind of the routine maintenance of life that's tough for me. And in fact, the last shoot that I did with Blair, where he has the earphones in, I had my shot list, and I had on it that I need to make sure I remember to shoot the phone with the song title on it. And we ended up doing the shoot. I start driving home, I pull out my shot list, and I never did it. So I wish I had Blair's attention to detail and preparation, but that's something I struggle with for sure.
I move furniture. My husband jokingly calls it my monthly construction project. I don't know what it is when I'm getting ready for something, I can't even think about the gig. I get so overwhelmed with all of my own thoughts that I just start moving stuff around the house. I always need something to do, something to build or something to paint or something to fix. I took up car repair, actually, so I do my husband's brakes on his car, too, because it's just something that keeps me going until I'm ready to sit down. But I'm also one of those people, when I compose, I like to sit down and knock out the whole thing at once. I can't walk away and come back. That's that over focus that I think autism probably brings to me. So I have to work myself into this perfect spot and then go do it.
So as the final item that I'll ask you about, because I think the audience may want to know this, about your future plans, are there places that people should be looking out for you in the future that you're going to be doing, things that are upcoming? I wanted to give you the opportunity to share if you want to share anything there.
I'm still willing to play Carnegie.
I have 4 different video movie projects that I'm working on right now in addition to my teaching. I just can't stop. We talked about the writer's or the artist block. I don't really have that. I have the artist finish issue. But hopefully I'm going to be producing a lot more work.
I have an 11 o'clock meeting tomorrow with the Smithsonian. I think it's likely that you guys will see the prints from the space series in there in the near future. And other than that, I'm going to go home and watch some trains.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, and it's just been incredible hearing from you. I definitely will be checking the Smithsonian for any permanent exhibitions by anyone that might be in this room. So now we will have a moment to transition. We're going to hear from the sponsor of the film, Denise Resnik, and First Place Arizona, before we enter the reception. And Denise and her organization have graciously offered to host a reception for all of us to enjoy who are here in the room. So thank you so much. Denise, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. And so when I said earlier, it's not what we say about community, it's how it makes us feel. And you have all made us feel inspired. You have made us feel humbled. You have made us feel that we never say never, and that you, Blair, as you talked about your daughter, and as a mother of a 32-year-old son with autism, I didn't want to hear that he could have a job or that he could have a home or that he could have an inclusive community. I wanted to be able to show him and to show other people during my lifetime. And that is why and how we continue to raise the bar in terms of what we dream about and what we think about and what we do in terms of modeling inclusive communities here and everywhere. And I loved what you said, Dr. Gordon, as you referenced our talent here and these amazing people that imbued with tremendous expression, and how that touches us and how that inspires us. And for you, Laura, talking about your socializing instrument, don't we all want to have a socializing instrument, something that connects us to the world, to our communities, to people we care about? And for you, John, who talked about acceptance and appreciation and inspiration, that film continues to inspire. And I never tire of watching it and thinking about all the details and all the thinking and talent that went behind that. And Blair, I am always struck by your greatness and your humility, and how we make ourselves lifelong humble learners. Because community development, like people, are perfectly imperfect. And we need more chances and more opportunities to get it right for ourselves, for those who come after us, for the people we care and we love the most. And so when we talk about First Place and the Global Leadership Institute, we celebrate how one first leads to the next. And that's what you're doing, continuing to set the bar higher and higher, far beyond what we might have dreamed about, certainly when our son was diagnosed 30 years ago, when we were told to love, accept, and plan to institutionalize him. And our son is more profoundly impacted by his autism. And I would love to have a conversation with him to be able to understand what is going on in there. But I continue to have to tap into how he's expressing himself through his emotion, through some of his music. And we need to continue to be reminded how different we are. And truly, the expression of community, real community, it's defined by who we include versus who we exclude. So thank you so very much for this opportunity to be included here at this program, and to also share with you soundtracks, which was shared with many people from around the world at our 12th Global Leadership Institute last fall. And we are now planning our 13th Global Leadership Institute Symposium this fall, and you continue to raise the bar for us. So at this time, I'd like to give you a little bit more of a taste of what First Place is as a property operating developer, by modeling how we learn, how we practice, how we better understand how to get it right and for whom, and what we need to do better, and how we also continue to lead not alone, but through collaborators and communities across the country and around the world.